right, welcome back to the super-centex podcast. With me, as always, is DJ Ramirez, Chad Conine. How are y'all doing today? Surviving.
I mean, I just wish this actual cold front would get here. It's hard to believe in it, you know?
It's teasing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We would like some actual football weather. We might get it this weekend. So I'm not sure that the matchups for this week, for week 7, jump off the page like some of the previous weeks we've had. But I do also feel like low-key we've got some really interesting matchups. And I want to start by digging a little deeper into the Connally versus Gatesville game, which opens up District 11 4A action. So these teams have been heading in opposite directions in recent weeks. Connally started out 3-0, and now the Cadets are on a 3-game losing streak, including a disappointing home loss to Springtown last week, the Porcupines. Gatesville, meanwhile, has won 3 in a row and has given up the fewest amount of points in the district. So I've got kind of a 2-part question here, which is Connally still the team to beat in this district? And sort of related to that, can they hold off the Hornets on Friday? What do y'all think?
I would say that Connally still is very much the district favorite.
Even over Madisonville?
Well, you just sprung that. You hit Madisonville, and then I started to say that about the Gatesville matchup, and you're like, oh, what about Madisonville? So let's table that for a second.
Okay.
What I was going to say is non-district results, non-district schedules, can be catered in a lot of different ways, and or can be curated or built in a lot of different ways. And Connally has sort of gone the loaded up route, and I think that's gonna serve them well once they get into district play. Gatesville's been good, but let's not forget that it's not been too long ago since Gatesville laid an egg against McGregor. So
right, no, it's fair. It's fair. I think they're trending in the right direction, though.
No, I mean the Gatesville program has kind of been a slow-moving, slow progress, but definite progress machine for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah. DJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as kind of weird as it's been to see Connally lose the last 3 weeks, I get why they've been losing the last 3 weeks. Whereas with Gatesville, I never really know if they're going to win or lose, right? Like they have a pretty good defense, but I can't say that anything really stands out to me on offense that tells me that they're going to be able to beat Connally. I still think Connollie's gonna be up there in the district. Madisonville is gonna be tough for them. Whereas I thought that they would probably be district champions at the beginning of the season, I'm not really seeing it right now. But you know what? The next few weeks are gonna be really telling.
So I had a hard time picking this game. I really did. I kind of wanted to pick Gatesville, and I think DJ makes a fair point that they're a little hard to figure out, partially because of what Chad said about I don't think the quality of opponent that Gatesville has played matches the quality of opponent that Connally has played. There's no question about that. But I do feel like their defense is pretty good. And Lawson Mooney is one of those tackle machine kind of guys. And they might just, muck the game up just enough to stay in it and win it at the end of the game. I guess we'll know a little bit more, obviously, after Friday. But after maybe talking to a guy by the name of John Werner, who's going to cover that game for us. So that'll be fun.
Back from his sojourn.
Yes. He's come down from the mountain with his tablets.
Well, another thing that we don't know, and sometimes, with high school football, you don't always know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. How many of its big playmakers does Connally have available, right?
I know Sibley and Black played last week, so and to me, I ultimately picked Connally for two reasons. In this, and when I say picked him, I'm talking about this game. But I still do kind of like them, agree with you guys as the district favorite. I picked them because they're playing at home. That's a factor. And then, so a couple weeks ago on the Big 12 podcast that we do, One True Podcast, we were talking about Baylor and Texas and that breaking down that game. And Cedric Golden of the Statesman said something about, ultimately Baylor might keep it a game for a while, but I feel like talent wins out. And I think that's true in football. Talent wins out generally. And so I feel like overall talent, Connally has the edge over Gatesville. So we'll find out on Friday. Should be a fun one. Meanwhile, down in Temple, Texas. So there's never been a season where both Midway and Temple entered their meeting with one another with losing records, but that is the case this year. They're both 1-5, so that makes them 2-10 overall combined. It's not a long series. They've only played 7 times, or this will be their 7th time since 2012. I guess this will be the 8th time because Midway won the first 6. Temple broke through last year with its first win in a big way, 44-10. I was at that game. We've had a little bit of a new development in the Midway-Temple game this week, as looks like Shane Anderson probably won't be coaching the Panthers as the school district looks into a personal situation not involving a student. That is on wacotrib.com if you want to read about that. A little bit of a weird backdrop for this game, but who do you guys feel like gets win number 2 on Friday night at Wildcat Stadium? Another game I had a hard time picking, honestly.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lean with Temple on this one, just because watching Midway last week, I have very little confidence in their line of scrimmage play on both sides of the ball. Just the way that Harker Heights was able to carve up and make gaps for itself so that their run game could get through, and then defensively just like Ty Brown was scrambling out there. I feel like that he was not able to set up passes right, and had to move around a lot. And I don't know if I have a lot of confidence in the lineman right now.
That's fair. Chad, what do you think?
Yeah, I flipped my pick on this one. I had done all my picks yesterday afternoon, and that news kind of popped up last night. And I just don't. I don't think that Midway was gaining some momentum in some ways, and this kind of seems like it would trip that up. Now it also is like a wild card. You kind of don't know what's going to happen with it. But I'll go with Temple on that. It's not. It's a lot more fun when we're talking about how good Temple and Midway are rather than them getting their second win of the season,
Fair enough. We've documented Midway's non-district schedule plenty. I think that certainly has helped or led to some of the losses piling up for the Panthers because there's not a lot of 6A teams that are going to beat Vandergrift. Mansfield's pretty good. Permian's pretty good. They played some tough teams and they were in a lot of those games. I do feel like maybe Temple took a step forward this past week in a close loss to Pflugerville Weiss, who I feel like is pretty good. Whereas, as DJ said, Midway might have taken a little bit of a step back against Harker Heights. And then you add, what they're dealing with as a program on top of that. As Chad said, I don't know, it could be a rallying point Who knows? But I also made my picks before this news about Shane Anderson came down. And I also, like Chad, I'm going to go back and flip my pick to Temple now. Where I do feel like Midway has an opportunity here is Temple's defense has not been good this year. They bled points early in the season. They were just giving up yards and points like crazy. So I think Midway could probably score. It's just, can Midway get out of its own way? That's been a lot of its problem this year. Is just some self-inflicted wounds. So we shall see. I'll be there on Friday. So beyond these games that we've already talked about, are there any that really stand out to you among these week 7 matchups?
Yeah, definitely. We don't talk about the Belton Tigers a lot.
Right.
We mentioned Lake Belton, the Lake Belton Broncos, and with Micah Hudson and everything. But Belton is playing really well, and they go up against a Leander Rouse team that's also playing really well, and that was a hard game to pick. I went with Belton, but I kind of, I was like, can Belton keep this going? Because I feel like, in a sense, it's not like they come out of nowhere, but they have been a little bit overshadowed by Lake Belton since it opened up, and it's been a little bit since Belton was really good, but they're right there. And Brice, I know they stumped you a few times early in the season. I got some games on you when you picked Brenham to beat them, and
yeah, I did. Of course, I'm always going to go with Brenham. I mean, come on.
Right, you old homer. The other one that was really hard to pick was Chilton and Bremond.
Agreed. That's always a lot of times the top 10 game. Bremond lost some games we didn't necessarily think they were going to lose, and they fell out of the top 10 earlier in the season. But should be a good one. What do you say, DJ?
Yeah, both of those are really good matchups. I also picked Belton. I feel like their quarterback is one of the best ones around here.
Reese Rumfield.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to Crawford Marlin this weekend, which I feel should be an interesting matchup. Crawford, obviously not as good as they were last year, just because that happens when they cycle out, their experienced players. But I feel like Marlin's also just been quietly doing really well for itself lately. We haven't really talked to them a ton or talked about them a ton. But they started off the season kind of rough, and they're kind of slowly just making progress. I don't really know if any other games are like sticking out.
So I tell you, I'm looking at our picks right now, and we have all picked the Wampus Cats to beat Italy. And the reason I picked Itasca was that last year that was a 1-point game, between the two. And I feel like they've moved enough in opposite directions a little bit to where I think we're right to pick Itasca to win that one.
Yeah, I will say that was another one that I had to sort of mull over. I feel like I said, they're low key a lot of really competitive matchups this week. Another one I will mention that I don't think this is just a slam dunk for China Spring, but China Spring opens district play on the road this week at Alvarado, and Alvarado has played pretty well this year. I mean, we've talked a lot about how good we think that district is going to be. I think this is, not an easy place to start a district if you're China Spring.
That's my out on a limb pick of the year so far, because I've gone with Alvarado.
Okay, there you go.
Hey, Chad. I like the Teague Malakoff matchup.
Yes.
I was the only one to pick Teague, but I think they got a chance. So
if they win that one, sign me up for the Lions, because they've been good all year, but if they beat Malakoff, you're talking about, I think, a top 10 team in Malakoff. So we'll see. Some good ones. I'll be interested in all of those. So finally, guys, in the Baptist church, we have an expression. We call it, that was a Sunday school answer. And what we mean by that is we ask certain questions, and if you answer Jesus, then that was the Sunday school answer, because you're probably going to get the answer right in a lot of questions. So this next question, I'm taking the Sunday school answer off the board. You cannot answer marked for this question, okay? So we're getting into October. We're start of, pretty much everybody is into district play at this point. Maybe some four school 6-man districts aren't, but whatever. Which local team is most likely to separate itself as the class team of its district? What do you say?
I want to see if DJ steals my answer. I got my stats plus here, by the way.
I have 3 written down, so I'm going to see if y'all mention any of mine. Probably do. You probably will.
Okay. I feel like the one that sticks out like a sore thumb right now is Riesel.
It's a good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
I mean,
that's one of my 3.
Points. Yeah.
That's one of my 3.
They gave up their first point since the first game against Rosebud Lot. Just a touchdown late in the game, but even before then, it was pretty clear they were going to win. Yeah, it's kind of one of, I don't know. I don't think it's weird. I think they've been good for a little bit, and
with Crawford being a little down in that district,
yeah.
I think it opens up an opportunity for Riesel for sure. Robert Little has been big.
I also really like Whitney in that district. I feel like I feel like they're gonna win the district title. So.
Wow. Yeah. That Whitney Grandview game should be fun. For sure. Chad, what do you say?
So we've got one of your 3 off the board.
Correct. Right? Correct.
Okay. Axtell is one of the 3.
Yes, it is one of the 3.
Okay. So that was going to be my answer from the get-go. The Longhorns look to be head and shoulders, already, and they may even separate themselves further in that sense.
Yeah, no offense to Itasca, but I just feel like even if that does end up being the district championship game in week 11 or whenever Axel and Itasca play, I think it's the last game of the season. I think the way the Longhorns are playing, they're on a different level right now.
Okay, so that third one, trying to figure out who that third team that you're talking about might be.
So I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. We've got a lot of good teams in our districts that I think are still potentially not going to win district championships, like Lorena, because you still have Franklin in that district, right?
University, maybe. Yeah.
University and Belton, I think that will be a fun game again, probably for a district championship. But that was another one that I didn't list. So Chad, do you have a guess?
Well, it's whittled down a little bit with us with those discussions, and so I'm going to say that the remaining one is Chilton.
It is Chilton. So I went all 2A. With Mart off the board, I still kept it 2A and went with Riesel, Axtell, Chilton.
In a lot of ways, 2A is our most interesting classification.
We have a lot of schools in 2A. We really do. We have a lot of schools and a lot of really good programs. And I just feel like, whereas DJ is right, Bremond might be able to give Chilton a game this week. I just feel like the Pirates, I think I said it a couple weeks ago, we probably haven't talked about them enough. They're state ranked. They feel like, I think they're good offensively, good defensively. You got the Red brothers. I assume they're brothers, maybe not cousins. So, Chilton is a program that really hasn't had a lot of lulls, in the 21st century. They've got a state championship. Chad and I can remember Lucky Gamble How about that for a high school football name, DJ? Lucky Gamble was their coach. That ranks right up there with Rusty Nail of Mart. But yeah, they were good back then. I can remember, Chad, when the Landrum guys were there, and those guys would do full flips with pads and helmets on after like scoring a touchdown or something. It was like, these guys are on a freakishly different level.
I've seen those guys around town from time to time, and they're all really cool, and really, they remember the days when we used to write about them, and they're really appreciative. It's a rewarding part of the job. Now, you mentioned lulls with them. There was the one year where they like beat Bartlett and then ended up making the playoffs then with one win.
Fair enough. Yes. Okay, that was a lull. That was a lull. Yeah, but they're back. Chilton is back,
for sure,
and it's not the
sure.
Texas is back kind of back. They're
it's been a crescendo. It's been a sort of a long crescendo for the Pirates program, and a fun one to follow.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, I think they're the class of that district, just as Axtell and Riesel are in theirs. And we'll see if some other local teams can claim their district titles. I would not put it past University. I mean,
that was they were the defensive stop at a field goal away from winning that game last year. So
yeah.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. On the other hand, they got to be more consistent than they were when I saw them a couple of Friday nights ago.
Fair enough. And I saw them on a night where they had a ton of penalties and still won, but against Copper's Cove, they do have some things they got to get cleaned up. But man, they've got something. They've got a belief in themselves, which is good. So that's a big thing. You start believing you can win, and you win. So Chad will be out at Lorena and McGregor on Friday. You looking forward to that one, Chad?
I am, although I was wondering about calling an audible, so maybe we'll talk about that. But I think Lorena McGregor still is a good choice. It's just a matter of how far I want to go, because all of a sudden that Bremont-Chilton game looks really good, and so there's some things to think about. Like the games we've been talking about, we're not necessarily staffing a lot of them.
Right, it's true. China Spring Alvarado is one of those. And then DJ will be in Marlin, Texas, to see the Pirates and the Bulldogs.
Yep,
that should be a fun one.
Yep.
And as mentioned, I will be down in Temple at Wildcat Stadium, Midway-Temple. Somebody's going to get their second win. It could be Temple's first district win. No, did I say they're identical records? No, Temple's 0-2 in district. So Midway is 1-1. I mean, just think about this. If Midway can get the win against Temple, it's 2-1 in district. That's a pretty good place to be. So we'll see. Should be fun. We'll see y'all at the games. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.